If comments and actions of leading figures in the People's Democratic Party are anything to go by, the crisis of confidence over the outcome of the party's presidential primary and the selection of the party's running mate is not abated. Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State, in a recent interview with Arise Television, revealed that all is not well within the party. Now, this became evident when only one of the party's 12 governors who are members of the 128-man Osun Governorship Campaign Council attended its inauguration of the party's national secretariat. Now, to make more sense of this, we have joining us in the studio to give us more insider perspectives, the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Honorable Debo Ologunagba. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak today.
Good morning.
All right.
So, thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. So, there's been reports of, crisis, brewing in the PDP. If you look at the front page of some of the dailies, the Punch newspaper, the Nation newspaper, it talks about, a crisis, as regards the vice presidential, candidate. Now, let's hear from the horse's mouth. Can you give us an idea or an insight on what is actually happening in the PDP right now?
Thank you very much, and we've got a nice studio here, and I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I put it straight up. There are no crises in the PDP. And what do I mean by that? Politics is about interest. It's about reconciliation of interest. It's about negotiation. And so in any human organization, and particularly a political party, there will be differences. It is normal. Within the family, there are differences. But it is the capacity of that institution to reconcile itself, to bring all those conflicting interests together that makes a difference. And I think PDP is well suited, well positioned for that purpose, and we're doing just that. You reference some reporting. Of course, journalists, and that's what you're good for. You look for news, and the more sensational, the better for the news. I think it's your profession, bad news is a good news, because that is what we want to hear. And having said that, the PDP is united, the PDP is together, and because PDP is the only organic party in this country today. And what do I mean by that? The history of the PDP is well known. It is the only party in Nigeria today that was formed based on policies and principles and objectives. And it's the only party in Nigeria today that is truly democratic and belongs to the people. And it's reflected in the name. Nobody owns PDP. It is owned by the people. And that is reflective in the name, by People's Democratic Party. If you listen to other parties in this country today, you can say, NMPP, for instance, you say, oh, it's a Kwankwaso party. In the days of CPC, you say Buhari party. In the days of ACN, say, oh, that is Tinubu's party. The PDP has been the only party that is truly democratic and is based on the people. So you expect that there will be differences, and when there are differences, people are allowed to express it. We don't censor comments. We don't censor opinion. We allow free flow of ideas and opinion. And that's why in the course of those conversations or expression of different opinions, observers who are not really close to the issue will say, oh, there are crises. So I can tell you today there's no crisis in the PDP. We have differences. It's expected in any political party and human organization. But those differences are being resolved because as an organic party, we have organs, we have systems, we have procedures that allows for those concerns to be taken care into. And then we're taking care of that.
Honorable, and our viewers will agree that maybe the issues in PDP are not just media creation as you try to point it, and it's not really perhaps disagreements.
I didn't say it was media creation.
No,
right?
you said that we go for bad news.
No,
and,
I said
that,
no. I said bad news is good news for the journalists.
Yeah, so
and so they try to look for what is going to be able to sell.
That's true. That's
and when
correct.
you hear bad news, it looks like you can sell. But I can tell you that there are no crisis in PDP.
But the facts on ground don't support this claim of
well, I don't know the
fact
fact that
because you know, for example, like what happened in Ekiti, and you know, even as my colleague has mentioned, the issue of the inauguration of the Ocean governorship panel, which no governor attended. Didn't all this signify that all is not well?
Okay. Well, I've had the opportunity of expressing this in a different fora. However, I could re-emphasize that here. The Osun Campaign Council inauguration, 2 governors were present. Governor Okowa, the vice president candidate, and the Governor Darius of Taraba. Both of them were present. Other governors sent in apologies. A host of them were outside the country. The chairman actually was in the United States, Governor Diri of Bayelsa, and they were not able to attend because of the time. We needed to put the committee quickly on place. However, they sent in apologies. That is not a signal of crisis. I do not. So because you don't attend a meeting and you have expressed apologies and sent in apologies, that doesn't constitute crisis. However, an observer outside would look at it as a crisis, and that's why I said the observers who are not conversant with the facts would probably refer to that as crisis or some kind of other issue that beyond what I have just said. But I can tell you here, and to all Nigerians of the whole world, that there are no crisis. The governors were unavoidably absent, and they sent in apologies. And that is the position.
Okay, now reports actually have it that, you know, still talking about the governors, that's the governor of Benue State, that's Samuel Orcham, actually came out to say that, you know, there's definitely crisis in the PDP, and this actually stems from the fact that, you know, Governor Okowa was picked as vice presidential candidate instead of Wike. And I'm actually quote what he said. He said, it is a personal affront that Okowa and not Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State was chosen. What do you have to say about this?
Well, again, let me put this in perspective. Governor Orcham of Benue State is one of the very outstanding leaders of our party. It's one of those who have put in so much into ensuring that this party stabilizes. And he's done exceedingly well personally. And I know for a fact that he's a good party man. But like I referenced earlier, because we're People's Democratic Party and we allow for conversation of ideas, and when people have their ideas and their concern, they express it. And that is what Governor Orcham did. He has expressed concern about certain procedures or action that were taken, and because consistent with the PDP, those issues are being considered. He had expressed disappointment on certain process, which is totally within his right to do. But that does not signify that there's crisis. What it signifies that there's conversation and that interests are being reconciled, and that allows for reconciliation. And that is ongoing. This is in PDP. However, I'm truly, truly glad that Nigerians are actually focusing on what happens in PDP. Why? Because we recognize that that is the only hope for Nigeria today. Because we don't censor, because we allow for cross-fertilization of ideas, because we allow for issues to be discussed, to be placed on the table. We're not a party where you give instruction, where you decide, oh, one man says this is it. Like the APC. And again, when we're having this conversation, because these are political parties that intends to put themselves forward to govern Nigeria, the X-ray should be on all of us, including the APC. I haven't seen much of that going on. Perhaps we need to recalibrate that idea and begin to look in that direction, because APC too is there. Other parties are interested. They want to lead Nigeria with their candidates. So what should be happening? That this issue you're talking about how far have we gone with APC and other parties that are involved in this process of our election process. So, yes, PDP has challenges with regards to differences within the party, but are we looking at the other party as well? Because that would be fair in circumstances, so that Nigerians can have a fair idea of these parties and the people leading the parties, and people have put themselves forward, and let us interrogate them. One, so that we don't lose focus of what the PDP says is going to do and what the APC is doing right now.
Yeah.
We said we come in with a mission to rescue and rebuild Nigeria. Indeed, we all agree. I think that now every Nigerian agrees that it's not well with Nigeria today, and that's a fact.
But in terms of internal stability, do you think the PDP is more stabilized than APC to prosecute the election?
Absolutely, and it's clear. And this is a clear thing for us. We know it. You know what? When you suppress opinion, it becomes an eruption. It becomes like a volcano. You notice at the so-called convention of the APC, where people were said to have been produced by consensus, and you found full-grown old men coming out to cry, to say, no, it didn't happen. I mean, how do you explain that? A party that wants to lead Nigeria and govern Nigeria, that cannot even conduct a mere national convention on the basis of the fact that there's dictatorial tendencies within the party, and different from the party that is willing to say, look, you speak up your mind, let's have a conversation. That should be the challenge.
Okay, let me just pick on something you said earlier when I talked about, Governor Autumn. You said everyone is free to air their grievances, and considering Governor Autumn, what he's actually worried about is actually being looked at. So the major reason why he's actually complaining is the fact that the vice presidential candidates, to him, the wrong one was actually picked, instead of Wike Okowa. Are you saying you're looking into, switching or swapping vice presidential candidates? Because even on the Punch newspaper here, we actually, there's a writer that actually talks about Rivers State Governor, PDP is PDP's pillar, and we will not beg him to defect. That's according to the BOT chairman. And a lot of people saying that if Okowa is still left as the vice presidential candidate, that there might be no PDP.
Okay. I started this conversation by telling you that PDP doesn't belong to anybody, and I think that should be the baseline. We're recognizing that. And again, I want to refer to Governor Autumn as one of the most outstanding leaders of our party. And we respect that. He's entitled to his opinions. What he has said, clearly, was that he has expressed concern about processes and procedures. He said it in that interview, that he has nothing against Governor Okowa, that indeed Governor Okowa is his friend. Those are his words. So what does that mean? It means, fundamentally, he's not against the person of Governor Okowa, but he's saying if certain things ought to have been done in a particular way, for which he's entitled to express, and we take cognizance of that as a party, recognizing the importance of Governor Autumn in the party, and of course to the country. A fearless, a very vibrant individual who believes in saying what he says, what is in his mind, and is very truthful to it. So having said that, to insinuate that this idea came out from the point you just referred to about switching, of course, that's all for me to speak about here. I do know that, and let's don't forget this, the choice of a running mate is a prerogative of the candidate. Because we're a democratic party, His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, who is an experienced and savvy politician, decided in the spirit of bringing everybody together, consulted widely, and involved every segment of the party, the BOT, the Governors Forum, former governors and the Ministers Forum, and the NWC, to say, look, I'm talking about this, it's together. Even though I have the prerogative to do it, I need your input to guide me. And then the guidance was given. Ultimately, it is his choice.
But who was actually chosen? Because the committee actually chose Wike.
It would be wrong to say the committee chose. The committee recommended 3 names, and I was privy to that report. Recommended 3 names of eminently qualified party men, outstanding in their rights. Governor Wike is a phenomenon in the PDP, and nobody can deny that. At some time in this country, he was probably the only man standing for the party. He was there. He gave us the voice. He gave us the capacity. He has the passion. He has the zeal. And he's a party man. And people shouldn't forget this. He said at the convention, and again I'm quoting him, he said something to the effect that he's a party man and that he's a PDP man to the core. Because all his life he's been in PDP and he's not left the party 1 minute. And he said at the convention that, yes, if he wins tonight, he believes, he expects people to support him. But if someone else wins, he will support because he's a party man. And we know he's a man of honor. We know a man with a lot of energy. We know these issues that we're talking about are legitimate issues. If there are issues not properly done before, of course, we have capacity to look at them to say, look, oh, probably we should have done this differently. We should have gone through this process on arriving at the same thing. Because in any event, the presidential candidate has the prerogative to choose whoever he considered appropriate. All he needed to do, or what he had done, which is consistent with the PDP culture, to say, look, let me speak to as many as possible, have more dimension to it for the good of the country. Particularly, he recognized the fact that Nigeria is sliding under the APC. We're in trouble, and we needed all hands to be on deck, and that's why consultation as wide as possible needs to be done, and that's what he did.
Wike and his supporters particularly believe that the first injustice or maltreatment done to them was from the convention itself, where some of his people believe that he was technically rigged out, and then also the claim that a committee raised to recommend Vice President again, which there were expectations that having come second and being from that part of the country, he will be picked as the running mate and all that. What do you say to the claim or allegation that the PDP has not been fair to Wike?
Again, I like the word allegation or the claim. When people have their feeling, but it is important to look at those feelings. And it's important to ensure that when those feelings are expressed, that they are listened to. And I'm sure that is the process we're going through right now. People have expressed their concern. Those concerns are being considered. We're looking at that because the party has a process that works. We have what I call within the party a differences resolution mechanism, which is very robust from all the organs of the party, and everyone is working because we recognize the importance of every member of the party in that mission. Otherwise, there's not one group or one person, not even one party can fix the Nigerian problem today. It must be a coalition. And we are expecting that, of course, many APC or other party members who truly believe in the need to put our country together and take it away from the brinks, from the precipice, of course we join PDP in that mission to rescue and rebuild. We are ready as a party. Again, I will continue to make these references. The other party, the APC, today don't even have a candidate. And I'll say what I mean by that, even though names have been submitted. There are candidates, there are allegations of no certificate. The president candidate cannot find certificate. The placeholder, because even though that's a new word in Nigerian lexicon or politics, we have only vice presidential candidate nominee, not placeholder nominee. But again, these are issues we should interrogate.
Mr. Debo, we'll discuss that at another forum, at another time. It's good, to discuss all this. But now that we're talking about your party,
yes,
can you answer the question? Do you believe that the PDP was not fair to Wike?
Well, again, I don't know what you mean by your definition by being fair. All right? I have just said to you that the PDP, and in any event, like I said, don't forget the fact that the presidential candidate has a prerogative under the Constitution to choose his running mate. In the process of doing that, if certain things have not been done properly, of course, if you say that's unfair, maybe. However, because when you have concern, sometimes you don't even know that something is unfair until it is said to you. When that is brought up, then you begin to look at the issues.
So now that I brought it up,
number one, I don't think you can bring it up because you're not even a member of the party. So why would you bring it up? It's unfair because you are making a comment about what you said somebody said, not yours. So if those members of the party feel it is unfair process, we as a party, because we have a robust internal process, we're looking at all the issues, including negotiation, including reconciliation, because in any contest, particularly political contest, issues like this will come up. When they come up, what makes a party truly a party is its ability to come together, reconcile it, knowing fully well that the interest of the party, and in this case, that of Nigeria, should override every other personal interest or group interest, or however, those group interests and personal interests must be considered in the overall interest of the party and of the country.
Okay, now talking about the interest of the party, it's actually safe to say, like, when a party gives an instruction, its members should actually follow. Now, what are your thoughts on the former governor of Ekiti State, that's Ayodele Fayose, demanding for power to be shifted to the south?
Yes. Again, that's another leader that stood up for the party at some point. He's entitled to his opinion. But like you rightly said, when the party, and this is the beauty of democracy, that's why the minority should have their say, the majority will have their way. When the party decides on a particular issue and it becomes a party position, every party member is expected to toe the party decision. But that doesn't stop anybody from expressing an opinion, which is why we're democratic. Unlike other parties, that they cannot. And the issue, you keep saying, don't talk about APC. The APC, you can't hear anybody talk about anything. That's close to dictatorship. We don't want that. We want democracy. Democracy allows for cross-value of ideas, for people to speak up. And we hear that. Right now in America, the issue of abortion is going on. People say, yes, it should be abortion, right? People say, no, they shouldn't be. Those are conversations. When you don't allow for conversation, you allow for bottle-up anger, and of course, ultimately it will burst up, become an eruption, and it could lead to anything that you cannot imagine. We in PDP allows for conversation, and that's why you hear all this, and we'll continue to welcome that. We're not going to stop that process because we're truly democratic, and that should be clear, and we should be able to put the difference between this political party and other political parties in terms of how we manage. And that tells you what this government will do, what the party will do in government. We'll be willing to listen to people, to professionals, to specialists like you here. Unlike now, where the government seems to know all, where nothing goes on. When we even speak about corruption, nobody talks about that. And then the impunity, the disregard for Nigerians going under this government will not go, because in our party, we listen to ourselves, listen to members, even listen to the press, to formulate our policies and take decisions based on that. Like this government, that nothing. When you talk about security, they don't want to listen to experts. Talk about the economy, no, they know everything. Talk about even human rights, no, they know anything about it. But the so-called fight of corruption, when there are suggestions, it is that because you are in the opposition. You just said about allegation about the former chief of army staff, 1.8 billion. I mean, any country, we should be worried about that. It's an ambassador. That should worry anybody. But they're not talking about that because, you know what? They believe we just keep quiet and don't fall in line. That's not what we are in PDP. PDP is a democratic party. We allow opinions, divergent opinions, to come in, and in that process, we develop a policy based on every interest.
Mr. Debo, beyond opinions, you know, former Niger Delta Minister Gusde Orubebe and another chieftain of the party from Edo State, Mr. Kasim Afebwa, and among others, had left the party. Don't you? And from the look of things, it appears as if Mr. Fayoshe is also on his way out. Are you not scared of this exodus from your fold?
I don't know what you mean by exodus. Exodus means a massive movement of people. That's my understanding, and maybe there's a new different meaning for that. There's no exodus in PDP. In fact, what you find is an influx of many people into PDP. You can say they had to call the APC senators. Don't resign, otherwise we'll remove you. That's a threat, consistent with the dictatorship. Oh, it's in the news. It's not me making it up. It's there in the news. You heard that. That's where there's exodus going to happen, and it's happening already. We were in Sokoto 2 Sundays ago. You saw the exodus. The Speaker of the House, members of the House of Reps, former ministers. That's what you call an exodus.
But these people actually move. If they're leaving, they move with their supporters as well. That's an exodus.
Well, again, I'm saying about that. Again, you measure people with their supporters. I don't want to talk about the weight of individuals. The good thing about the PDP is this, and this is historical. It is the only party in Nigeria that is not owned by anybody. I referenced that earlier. It is the only party that a former president has left, a former ministers, governors have left, and the party didn't die. That is, and they come back because they know that is the source of democracy in Nigeria. With all due respect to as many people have expressed interest, we go after them. We don't lose our leaders. We don't lose our members. We try to find out what's the concern, and we discuss it. And so, as to the concern, we are uncomfortable that members are leaving, or those 2 members you referenced are leaving. Then again, you thought about the third one. Then you think he might leave. You are just still in the realm of conjecture. And I don't comment on conjecture. It may or may not happen. So I leave it at that. But I know he's a respectable leader in the Ekiti State, and he knows as a leader that he needs to lead well there. And we understand. But for us as a party, we are concerned with the issues of Nigeria. In doing that, we're keeping our house in order and ensure that every part of Nigeria is part of this movement, because we need it to survive as a nation. We're here now in this comfort, cozy studio because there's peace, relative peace around here. Okay. Otherwise, we won't be able to sit down here. So we want that. The insecurity in this country is a challenge, it's a concern to us, and that's what we are focused on, particularly to rescue this country. Our kids are not in school. The roads, we can't travel by road, by air, by rail. For the first time, there was a bomb blast on a road in Nigeria. It never happened. That's a bad commentary for this government, and it become part of their history. They need to carry to their graves when they die. Okay,
now, earlier you actually talked about, some people or some members, with a lot of bottled up anger, in them, members of the PDP. Now, don't you think with the whole internal crisis and the said bottled up anger, don't you think it would actually affect, the PDP's chances of winning the elections?
I mean, like I said, we don't have bottled up anger in our place. I just said there's no crisis, and please just to emphasize that we have differences. Just like we have in the family, like we have in businesses, you have differences. In PDP, there are no bottled up anger. You have that in APC, and you could see that coming up. It's happening every day. Now, people, they whip back to the legislators. They had a meeting with them in the State House and say, If you defect, then you will remove it. I mean, that sounds like a command. That's not democracy. And that is what should concern us. Because this character of behavior as a party, if it goes into government, then of course someday they will tell us the trust can't transmit today because somebody is unhappy. You recall how Twitter was sent out of Nigeria, not for anything, but that they tweeted something that somebody doesn't like. And that's not what the country we want. There are no bottle-up anger. There are people who have their opinions, and they feel that, oh, certain things should have been done differently, and we allow for free expression of those views, and that allows us to have a reconciliation that is total. It's different from people who don't speak. When they don't speak, that's more dangerous. They say, look, this is how we feel. And when you speak out, what you are expecting that there must be an avenue for you to express it so that it can be taken care of. And that's exactly what's happening right now in the PDP.
Beside the conflicts or the misunderstandings at
or
the
the
center,
differences.
I mean, like let me go with you.
Thank you.
Aside the differences at the center,
Correct.
we have also pockets of crises in state chapters of the party, like in Ogun State, where 2 candidates are claiming the ticket. Also in Kano State, the same thing. I remember when we went to the PDP last week, you declined to answer the question about Kano. What's happening? Who is who? You know, in these at least two chapters of the party.
Well, it's clear. The Electoral Act is clear. The party guidelines of PDP is very clear on how you emerge as a candidate of the party. The national level, the state chapters don't conduct congresses or primaries. It's conducted by law, the authority of the Electoral Act, as well as plethora of Supreme Court decisions and judgment, that it is the national body of a party that conducts primaries and congresses. Now, the process is this: when we need to do a congress or a primary election in any state, the national body sets up a committee. And the committee goes to conduct it. INEC, by law, is empowered to not only observe, to supervise and to monitor. Those are the words, to monitor. They will observe and monitor, and then they do a report. Now, that is the only authentic Congress that will be recognized by law and in court, because there's evidentiary value in what they're doing. They must say, yes, we will observe this, and we will observe that all the guidelines and in line with what they said they would do, they have done it, and according to law. So in Ogun State, the candidate of the party, or in other state for that matter, the candidate of the party that was supervised, one, by INEC, and two, the committee that were constituted by the national body will be the authentic, and that's exactly what has happened. You recall that, you know.
And who is that?
In Ogun State?
Yeah.
It's Ladi Adibutu.
Okay. What's of Kano?
Kano right now, I can't say to you right now because I need to confirm that, but because I can't have all the names of all of them right now in terms of all I'm.
Okay, so let me help.
But whoever, the principle is to whoever has emerged from the Congress or primary, approved by the national body and supervised and monitored by INEC, will be the authentic. That will be the baseline. In terms of putting individual in, our private won't put in name, but whoever in that process, that should be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think with that, we've come to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much for, giving us an in-depth analysis on this particular issue, Mr. Honorable Debo. Thank you so much. It was nice to have you, on the show today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I hope you have me again. And
yes,
it's good to have this. I'm ready to come in here to have, because again, Nigerians have a right to know.
Yeah.
They need to know. and you need to x-ray us. And I'm going to appeal to the press, x-ray the people that have put themselves forward so that Nigeria can make an informed decision. We've gone through a lot, and we don't think we deserve to go through more. The Nigerians have a right to know, and the only way to know is to use a platform which is very extensive and very wide, so they can get to assess this of us and know whether we're qualified on the face of it or not.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we hope to have you some more.
Thank you very much. I appreciate for the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that was the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Honorable DAYBREAK.